But it's always a pleasure to join the Pennsylvania Alliance because you are one of our most active and most successful state chapters. So to the entire Pennsylvania Alliance, let me begin by thanking you for all you've done. With its multiple swing districts, Pennsylvania is such an important state in every congressional election, and we're fortunate to have so many political savvy seniors here. One of those seniors, of course, is our outgoing president, Jean Friday, and while we honored her last night, I could not let this moment pass without thanking her again. She was such a pleasure to work. I want to discuss the latest from Washington on Social Security and Medicare and what else the Alliance is doing to protect current and future retirees. There's a discussion of what some call a grand bargain. Now that's a deal between Democrats and Republicans that would include cuts in Social Security and Medicare. That doesn't sound like much of a bargain to me. This year's budget cuts, known as sequesters, did not cut Social Security or Medicare, but they have hurt seniors in many other ways. There are now 4 million fewer meals on wheels, 2 million fewer rides for seniors to their doctors, and 300,000 seniors lost home heating assistance. So as we prepare for another budget showdown, we must make sure we have no more terrible cuts like these. I know the Alliance has asked a lot of you in the past few years, but these are the times we live in. Too many people in Washington want those with the least to sacrifice the most. They give outrageous tax breaks to the wealthy and to big corporations, but target Social Security and Medicare for cold, terribly unfair cuts. Two proposed cuts in Social Security we've been hearing about are raising the retirement age and lowering the cost of living adjustments, COLAs. Some people want to raise the retirement age to 70. Can you imagine working until you are 70? This makes you realize just how out of touch these people are. Working to 70 may be great for a politician or a CEO, but for people in physically demanding jobs, it would be very difficult. A postal worker on the job until 70, a coal miner in the mines until 70, an iron worker on a beam 7 or 8 stories above a street, or a 70-year-old nurse lifting a patient. It just isn't possible. When people talk about raising the retirement age, they say it's because we are now living longer. But the truth is that the increases in life expectancy have almost exclusively been for the highest wage earners in this country, the ones with the least physical demanding jobs. And the life expectancy has barely changed for workers with lower income and education levels. The proposal to lower future cost of living adjustments, COLAs, would reduce benefits by changing how the government calculates the rate of inflation. Washington policymakers have a very cold technical term for this idea. They call it the change CPI, of course, the Consumer Price Index. But for seniors, it would be called something very different and far more painful. It would be a cut in benefits you need to make ends meet each month. If you retire today at age 65, the change CPI would lower your Social Security benefits by $6,000 over 15 years. The average Social Security check is not much more than $1,000 a month, and for many retirees, this is the only source of income. I just can't imagine how they could get by in anything less. The COLA is meant to help us keep up with inflation. But this is harder for seniors than for people of other ages, and that's because we spend a far greater percentage of our income on health care than younger people. For other purchases, you can find a lower price substitute, but for health care, there's not a lot you can do. You can't simply switch to a double bypass when the doctor says you need a triple bypass. So not only are these proposed cuts terribly unfair, but they have no place in the budget debates at all. You know, Social Security does not add a single penny to the deficit. It is fully paid out of employee and employer's payroll taxes. Yes. Social Security is not a handout. It is something you earned and paid for each and every day on the job. That's it. Social Security gives workers hope that they will someday enjoy a safe and a secure retirement. And during these budget fights, we must keep Social Security strong for generations to come. We must also keep the promise of Medicare alive. There are some very bad ideas floating around Washington to cut Medicare. Here are a few of them. push retirees toward buying health insurance in this costly, unfair private market, raise the Medicare eligibility age, raise the Medicare premiums, do away with the new preventative tests and services under the Affordable Care Act. What do all these ideas have in common? Two things. One, they would hurt those who need help the most, and two, they target seniors while letting the big drug companies get off scot-free. Ever since the Medicare prescription drug law was passed in 2003, the big drug companies keep making record profits. Americans pay the highest drug prices in the world. So where does all that money go? None of us were born yesterday, so I think we have a pretty good idea who gets rich every time we get sick. Listen to these paychecks. In 2012, the CEO of Johnson & Johnson made $40 million. The head of Pfizer, $25 million. The CEO of Eli Lilly was the poor kid on the block. He had to scrape by on $14 million that year. Probably was clipping coupons. Over the last decade, the 11 major pharmaceutical companies made a combined $711 billion in profits. When you think about all the people out there that are struggling to afford their prescriptions, this is absolutely disgusting. So instead of targeting our Medicare for cuts, why don't we close some of the loopholes, the corporate welfare that these companies get every year in Washington? For example, Medicare is specifically prohibited from negotiating volume discounts from the big drug companies. That was written into the law in 2003. Can you believe that? Every savvy consumer knows that you save money when you buy in bulk. That's why places like Costco are packed every day. If we ended this sweetheart deal that the drug lobbyists put into the law, we would save $141 billion. And that would be over a 10-year period. And this is what the Alliance is trying to do, all of which makes this fall a very important time for us. We're off to a good start. In Pennsylvania and across the country, Alliance activists spent the summer trying to educate people of all ages. Nationally, the Alliance held over 100 human chain events to protest the chain CPI. And we had over 50 events to mark the anniversaries of Medicare and Social Security. And I thank you for all you did to make this summer such a success. Related to protecting our Social Security benefits, Representative Linda Sanchez of California recently introduced legislation that is crucial to our members. It is the House companion bill to the Strengthening Social Security Act of 2013, which is Senate Bill 567, introduced by Tom Harkin in the Senate. It would increase annual Social Security benefits by an average of $800. It also ensures the Social Security Trust Fund remains solvent for years to come, protecting all of our benefits. At a time when the retirement income deficit is now $6.6 trillion, the American people are calling for strengthening, not cutting Social Security. Instead of a cold and calculated benefit cut like the chain CPI, the Strengthening Social Security Act would actually increase annual Social Security benefits by an average of $800 per year. Let's do all we can to encourage support of Representative Linda Sanchez's bill in the House. The Strengthened Social Security Act, her bill number is H.R. 3118. Thanks to the work of activists like you, we are already up to 30 co-sponsors. These issues that bring us together affect every generation and every family. When someone has a health or a financial problem, it impacts everybody. And today's workers who are struggling to get by need to have the hope and the faith that programs are paying, that they're paying for in every paycheck, Social Security and Medicare, will be there when they retire. We cannot be the last generation. I believe we need to do a major outreach to younger generations. You know, some of our state's Alliance chapters have begun going to college campuses to help educate students. They have been received very well, and the students are encouraging them to continue this. Younger generations are just trying to keep their heads above water, hold on to their jobs, raise their kids, pay their bills, so they're not thinking too much about retirement. Politicians know this, and that's why many of their schemes for Social Security, Medicare, and pensions may leave current retirees alone, but they're going to slash the benefits for those who are younger. And we cannot allow this to happen. We cannot be the last generation to retire. Everything we fight for, from state and local legislation to Social Security and Medicare, is all part of the larger fight for justice and fairness. Yes, we are seniors. We're advocates, and many of us are labor advocates. But we are much more than that. We are parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends and neighbors, and we are united by our shared commitment to the fairness, the justice, and opportunity. Because through good days and bad, we just keep up that fight because of how much we care about our children and grandchildren and all the generations that will follow us. And my fellow retirees, I thank you for all you do. We have accomplished so much. We have every reason to be very proud. But in times like this, we cannot sit back and rest on our laurels. We face great challenges. We face opponents who will spend more in 1 year than all of us combined will ever spend in our lifetime. But they will never be able to outwork us. I'm confident that if we do what we do best, organize, educate, mobilize, work harder than anyone else, we can continue to make life better for people of all ages. For retirees like us, our working days may be over, but our fighting spirit burns stronger than ever. Thank you.